Welcome to Behind the Blue Curtain. This is your all-access pass to Sarasota Opera. We'll uncover stories, behind-the-scenes perspectives, and explore the magic that happens both in front of and behind the blue curtain. In the charming little country of Pontevedra, everyone is worried about one problem. Their richest citizen, the glamorous young widow Hanna has arrived in Paris with a massive fortune. But if she marries a Parisian, her money will leave the country and Pontevedra might go bankrupt. So to prevent this, the Pontevedrian embassy has a plan. They want Hanna to fall in love with the handsome, charismatic Count Danilo, who spends most of his time partying at Maxime's. There is a complication. Hanna and Danilo used to be in love. Now they're both single and are both far too proud to be the first to admit that they are still in love. Along the way, there are secret romances, jealous husbands, fancy parties, and lots of champagne. So joining me for our discussion today is Anthony Barrese, our conductor, Stephen Kemp, our set designer, and Raquel González, the merry widow herself. So we're going to start off today with our set designer and our conductor. And so there are so many operettas that were written in this time, hundreds and hundreds. An operetta is usually a humorous stage work that includes spoken dialogue between the musical numbers. Operetta can be thought of as the precursor to music theater. What is it about this one that makes it so timeless, that keeps it so popular, that makes people want to go back to the theater to see it?
You know, that's a really good question because there really were hundreds and thousands of operettas. As you know, I'm also the music director for a company in Chicago, Chicago Folks Operetta, and we've done several American premieres, pieces, amazing pieces that have never been done in America. Merry Widow is the one that really does kind of hang on. First of all, Lehar himself was a very savvy composer, really smart. He knew all the right people. He was very well connected politically. He was able to advocate for his music in a way that I think a lot of other composers were not. I think that he just hit this really amazing musical, dramatic combination of something that's very appealing. Years ago, when I first approached Merry Widow, I was very hesitant about it because I consider myself a bit of an elitist musical snob, and I had previously done a production of Fledermaus, and I really didn't like it. And I thought, oh, is this going to be more of that? And for several reasons that we can go into later, I just found it completely magical. It converted like an icy-hearted person like me almost immediately. Like it just took over my heart in a way that very few pieces have. So I think that there's that element of it too. There's a real immediacy to how beautiful it actually is.
And the characters are so believable. Yes, it's within this comedy situation, but there is so much genuine heart in this. Wouldn't you say that maybe isn't in Fledermaus?
Yes, I think because Danilo really is just sort of a cad. You're supposed to see this guy. He's rich, he's lazy, he's kind of a loser. On paper, this guy's terrible, right? But in the opera, he is very charming, and when he's done right, you can see the appeal of somebody like this, you know, and we all know people like this in real life. Like by all accounts, you should not be drawn to somebody like this, but they're funny or they actually do care about you in a certain way. And there's something very human about the character of Danilo that even more than the widow, I think the success of this piece relies on a credible Danilo that you can actually be charmed by and like. Hanna comes in, the widow, and she just charms everybody immediately. I mean, it's almost impossible not to with the music, and especially with our Hanna, Raquel González. It's just, she's set up for success. Danilo has to kind of overcome all of these dramatic obstacles and these like dramaturgical obstacles where he just should not be likable, but he is.
So I want to make an argument. You say he's a cad, And yes, he's living a bit of a dissolute life, but his heart was broken when she married someone else.
He's had every advantage known to man, like money, wealth. But yes, I do. Yes, that is the thing that's set up in the plot, and it's so fun to see him just kind of lose his mind around her because he's so drawn to her.
Steve, you have designed such a wide variety of shows here, but you've done a lot of more serious operas. So, how do you approach something that has this wonderful effervescence and life to it?
Premiering in 1905, it's set right at the turn of the century in Paris. There is so many amazing things to be looking at for these different locations, right? I mean, Catherine, the director, and I, we started looking at all of the Art Nouveau influences. Of course, you've got the World's Fair, the Paris Exposition in the year 1900, where the Grand Palais was constructed. So we're looking at all these influences as well as all of the art of the time. Toulouse-Lautrec, obviously unavoidable. Looking at sliding into Impressionism, and you look at the realities of these spaces. We never go to Maxim's, but it is a real cafe, that in 1899 was outfitted with all of this beautiful Art Nouveau glass. And so looking at all of those things that we can still find today in all these photos, and starting to really dig into the embassies, which is the first act set, right? This, even though it is an imaginary country, looking at the real embassies and what those spaces would be. To your point, frequently, I am designing serious operas. I was looking at the research, and we're looking at the story here that this is a country that is not doing financially well and is looking, the plot point, we're looking to increase the coffers. Let's get a marriage going where money can flow back to the country. So is it a crumbling space? Is it like a decayed Baroque space? But that doesn't match the lighthearted mood and the romance going on of the piece. So that's where you start looking at, like, okay, well, where do we layer in the comedy here? And that got us to this framework of the beauty of the curving romance of Art Nouveau, and looking back at the Grand Palais, looking at the frame within that structure, which right now at this very moment is the world's largest indoor ice skating rink. So we use that influence. So that is our framework for all of the locations, actually, this Art Nouveau frame, where we can then also have this juxtaposition of a bit more stately, governmental, Baroque influenced architecture for the embassy that can then flow into, a more unified Art Nouveau influenced garden for Hanna's house as we go to Act 2 and 3.
Well, and 3 is in Maxime's, so how fun was that to bring that iconic place to life?
It's done many different ways. You'll find some productions where we go from the outside of Hanna's house in Act 2, the garden, inside her house, where she has themed her ballroom as Maxime's to pull Danilo in, who we find continually going to Maxime's. He's just living there. That space for us, we created this through line. How about she just decorates the garden itself as Maxime's? So we just continue that space and we transform the garden into even this more themed event that has a little bit more continuity and believability in some ways. And it went through a lot of different iterations. That was the space that probably changed the most in our pre-production. We looked at really being influenced by the stained glass in actual Maxime's and creating this like large fan to connect to a major plot point of a fan that we will learn about it within the comedy.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see. I've seen the designs and they're gorgeous. So Tony, back to you. So, Viennese operetta. What does Viennese style mean? What should an audience expect from that?
So Viennese operetta originated with actual Viennese people like Strauss and all that. But by the time you get to Lehar, and even when you get further into this, and people like Kallmann and Kunicke, like many of these composers were from parts of Eastern Europe. And there's often some element of, they make up a country, Pontevedra, right? And it's It's sort of like, Yugoslavia. They always create some Eastern European sounding folk music that is in some way or another supposed to sound authentic. It's just an extension of exoticism. And so by the time you get to Lehar, you actually do have composers who are from Eastern Europe who are able to draw upon their folk tunes. But at the same time, they're also very steeped into the world of Viennese music, light music, waltzes, marches, polkas, things like that. And so all of these popular forms, mostly dance forms, that were wildly popular in Vienna at the turn of the century also make their way into this music. And then I'd say on top of that, you have a third layer of music, which is, for lack of a better word, just sentimental, romantic melodrama music. So I'd say it really has all three of those elements. It has like a sweeping romanticism to it. It has the popular waltz and polka and march tunes, and then it also has this kind of mystical Eastern European kind of sounding music. Arabic or Jewish, you can't really place it. It sounds, like vaguely from Eastern Europe over there. So I think these three musical elements at this point in time with Viennese operetta are really the secret sauce of what makes it so appealing.
And audience members can expect such a full experience with acting. There is dialogue, there is incredible music, but also choreography and English. I mean, how do you feel this leads into music theater for someone who's never seen an opera? Is this something that could immediately appeal to them?
Yeah, I think if you've seen musicals, it goes by pretty quick. The plot is just so straightforward. There are weird mix-ups and deceptions.
Well, nothing you can't follow. It just, enhances the intrigue of these relationships.
Right. And it being in English.
So Steve, this opera has an advantage compared to some of the early Verdis that we've worked on, that there are no set changes mid-act, so that you can have the intermission to change the set. Does that affect your design? Are you able to do more in that way?
And absolutely, yes, yes. You get to think of it more in like the Tosca-esque, filling the stage as, act one is act one in this location, and then you get to think completely in this other space. And with us kind of tying act two and three together, it really allowed us to the maximum effect for both spaces. So really it is the embassy, and then it is Hanna's garden that then transforms. So we had a lot of fun then really getting into the details and just really creating, using every inch of the stage, to give us all that space for the dancing and all of these moments, all these great moments. And then for Act Two to be able to have enough of a flow for the comedy that ensues with our pavilion. So yes, it really allowed us to enhance the spaces.
And did you interact all or communicate with Howard Kaplan, our costume designer, and talk about colors, or how did that factor into the design?
Yes, because we're getting brand new costumes for this piece too. All of his work is incredibly exciting, always so beautiful. Used all, not only here, everywhere, right? Because everyone rents the costumes. It was so exciting to work with him from the ground up on this one. And yes, we looked at what really influenced, though we didn't end up going so heavy into Impressionism or Fauvism, any of those other art movements adjacent to Art Nouveau right there at the turn of the century. The color influenced us, as well as Nouveau itself. But some of those, the Toulouse-Lautrec paintings, they showed their face through color. And so we were looking at a lot of research. I was showing him some of those early on in our early meetings. And so he really bounced off of that with what he was doing. And, I think it's all married really well in an exciting way of where this is going to take us.
Well, and as we know, Ken Yunker, our lighting designer, loves to get in there and enhance all of your nuance and all of Howard's nuance. So all of those colors are going to jump out at the audience.
I think the, Act Two and Three, a progression of night, always gains the ability to have a lot of romance, creating, some beautiful space with light. So yes, I can't wait. And it's all very textural and dimensional, especially in the garden, with being able to rake light across all of the foliage that we have filling the space, and the topiaries. Look out for some romantic topiaries that I think, will take light so beautifully. So we're very excited with that.
I've never heard those two words put together before, romantic topiaries. What do you guys want the audience takeaway to be?
I want them to be like, wow, I had no idea this was so beautiful and so much fun.
And what about you, Steve? What do you think the audience should take away? What do you want them to get?
Yeah, I want my environments to support that beauty and the humor, the energy, right, and the romance. I want them, trying to stop themselves from dancing in the seats, and and it's wonderful escapism. I think we really transport them to this whole other world. So yeah, I want you to feel like you're in Paris for the night.
I am so pleased now to welcome Raquel González, a singer I fell in love with when she sang Madame Butterfly here a few years past. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, and what I would love to start out with is there are very few singers that I've encountered in my many years in opera who go into so much specificity of detail as you did in Madame Butterfly. Your acting was absolutely mesmerizing because I never questioned that you were Madame Butterfly. So where does that come from? Is that something you've worked on, something innate? Talk to me about that.
It's definitely not innate. Firstly, I had great teachers when I was studying at Juilliard. I had amazing acting teachers and coaches to whom I owe all my comfort dramatically to. Ed Berkeley, John Petro, Mary Birnbaum, David Paul. They were all integral in developing me as an actor.
I think it's a whole lot of natural talent and intelligence and acting intelligence, but I do love your modesty and charm, both of which are necessary for the role you're taking on next as Hanna Glavari in The Merry Widow. So do you have experience doing operetta? Is this new to you?
I've done select scenes. I've done a couple scenes from Fledermaus, a little bit of Gilbert and Sullivan here and there. And from Merry Widow, I've done Lippenschweigen, the duet, back in college, I think I sang it. But I have never performed a full leading role in an operetta. So it's new territory for me, which I'm excited to take on, but it's a new challenge for sure.
And so I guess one of the biggest differences is that there is a lot of dialogue. And is that something that intimidates you, excites you?
Both. I mean, it is definitely intimidating because, yes, as singers, we are actors. But as singers, we're also very lucky to have scores that give us so much of the structure and so many of the clues for who your characters are and how you are expected to portray them and what fits within the realm of the score. So dialogue is a new challenge. As far as dialogue goes, I've done a couple flutes, singing Micaela and Carmen. There's a little bit of dialogue, and granted, doing dialogue in French is different from doing it in English, but that's also, you have the responsibility to be fully intelligible and communicative when you're speaking in English to an English-speaking audience. So it's a new challenge for me, but also, again, if you delve into the score, there are clues there as to who Hanna is and what I can do to best portray her.
In this opera, you have a man who you are in love with, who is in love with you, and yet the two of you are sort of each waiting for the other to admit it. So talk to me about establishing that kind of chemistry between your lead character that will communicate to the audience?
As opera singers, because we're thrown into these productions with 3 weeks rehearsal maybe to get to this very intimate, very comfortable place with your colleagues. Thankfully, we are all professionals who are used to a certain degree to developing this intimacy and rapport within a quick period. So I think most of us come into a rehearsal room with open hearts and minds and willing to develop rapport, not just as professional singers on stage, but as colleagues who would like to become friends. We are all away from our families and our homes. So when you are in a rehearsal room, these people are your family and they are hopefully your new friends. So I think most of us are pretty good about breaking down those walls very quickly and being willing to be uncomfortable for a little bit to figure out what is natural between one another in terms of physicality and just what the dynamic is between any two lead performers. So it's fun. I haven't performed with Jake.
Jake Stamatis will be playing Count Danilo.
And he is lovely, which is good to know that I already have faith that we will develop this rapport very quickly and we'll have a good time.
He's so charming. But don't you find that magical when the chemistry works on stage, and whether it's a serious scene, a sad scene, a dramatic and angry scene, whatever it needs to be, when you have colleagues that are playing off you and giving you back that energy you need, it's indescribable, isn't it?
It's absolutely what makes this as fun and exciting as it is. And we're lucky at Sarasota that we have so many performances, and every performance is going to be different, which is the best part of it. When you have a limited run of 2 or 3 shows, you don't have quite as much leeway to explore, but I just love that we'll have so many opportunities to play around a little bit and make every performance special for us and for the audience. No 2 audiences will see the same show.
But also, we're also so lucky that the company dedicates enough rehearsal time so that we can really feel we put the show together that is really going to tell a story to the audience. Don't you feel? I mean, I'm sure you've worked with companies where it's survival of the fittest.
By the time I arrived to Sarasota, it will be almost a full month before we open, which I think is tremendous because, yes, as other companies, the whole period is maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, and what a fun role, because you get to sing and act and do dialogue, and I suspect you'll be doing a bit of dancing. Is that something you've done a lot of?
A little bit, it's the same thing. I'm very thankful to my training for having given me a little of experience in all these areas, but I think this will be the most, full circle, a little bit of everything role that I've done.
Well, and I think you've got a good partner there because Jake has posted a few videos online of his past dance experiences, and he was really dancing. He was, doing flips on the stage and whatnot. So I think you've got a partner who's going to be able to lead you.
Oh, good. That's all I need. Really, just give me a strong partner.
So you're throwing yourself into this, you're figuring out who Hanna is, and in it we really learn what a romantic Hanna is, right? We get, this woman really wants a true love, right? So it serves showing us a different vulnerability about her, which is so special.
Yeah, and I think that will be the most fun, is that with Hanna, it is so much of it is a game, right? It's about pushing and pulling with Danilo to see who will yield first. And even from her first entrance, I mean, that entrance is going to be so fun in itself, right? Coming grand in a beautiful gown, which the sketches for which I've already seen and I'm very excited about. And you're just a rich woman over whom all these men are fawning. There's a facade with everybody in this show. And it's about choosing those times where the curtain is pulled back a little bit and giving those glimpses into, the vulnerable side of Hanna, and then the facade that she has put on. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and what do you want the audience to take away from this?
As a singer, I perform a lot of tragic operas, and don't get me wrong, I love them. I find them satisfying as a performer and as an audience member. But I think for both people who are new to opera in general, new to Sarasota Opera, or people who come to the opera all the time, Merry Widow is a fantastic gateway either into a new genre you're not familiar with or into the opera house in general. It's accessible, it's quick, it's fun, it's beautiful, it's everything that you want to experience when you go see any kind of show, when you see a movie, when you see a play, when you see an opera. It's got everything, and I hope people are willing to come see it, and hopefully it brings a whole new audience to Sarasota.
Well, I can't wait to hear you do this role. The Merry Widow opens February 21st for 9 performances. Thank you to all of my guests today for talking about Merry Widow, and join us for our next podcast, which is all things Il Trovatore, sieges, serenades, and secrets. See you then.